Okay, go ahead. Okay. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad to see you here. We're a little bit sparse tonight. It's fall break. I expect more people will be coming in, and we're glad for every one of you. We did have a lot more people at our free hot dog party on Monday night, and so we had like 350. It was so great, and we'll talk more about that later. We're going to start off with a brief report on Carterville Road from the Forestry Department, which Rachel, are you presenting that? Thank you, Rachel. Then we'll have the school district update from Lisa Boyce from the Provo School Board, and we're really happy to have her with us. Then we will have I think we're going to adjust this last part and we'll go right to the YServe presentation after that. And then we'll go to the presentation about Pleasant View and Rotary Park and 1460 North, which I added in after this went out. Then we'll have public comment, and that is really important. We want to hear your insights into your neighborhood, what your concerns are, and you could even tell us what you're happy about. That'd be great. And then we will adjourn. So let's go ahead and start with the Carterville Road tree limbs. Oh, I forgot to say, my name is Beth Hedengren. I'm the chair. And would the board members here please stand up just to we have Mindy Jeppesen from Grandview South. We have Lynn Sorenson from Pleasant View, Eric Chase from the North Park, Mike Roberts from BYU, and Aaron Scavlin from Riverside. Rivergrove. Thank you so much. Okay, now Carterville Park.
Okay, let me just bring up this report. I can. Come on. Okay, so it was kind of confusing because we had a request to trim the trees along Carterville Road. So I talked to the urban forester, Chaz Addis, and he said that he took a drive along Carterville Road and it looked like the trees and shrubs had been pruned back. And so he thought that it was the Parks Department that had done it. Because earlier I had gone by and taken photos of it and it was very overgrown. And so he said it looked fine. So I went to the Parks Department and he said, we don't do Carterville Road. So someone trimmed Carterville Road. I don't know who. But Sarah AC, the Carterville neighborhood representative, did go along and she said the trees had been trimmed. And here you can see a photo. Here is a before photo that I had taken. And here's the after photo. So you can see when you're driving, you can see much better around this curve now that the trees have been trimmed back. But I don't know who did it, but it was done. So that's the report. It must have been someone, because I did show these before pictures to a lot of people. So someone did it, but it wasn't the forester and it wasn't Parks. So maybe an Eagle Scout. Okay, so that's that report. And then
I need to quickly say, this is Rachel Breen, who is the city employee who's in charge of the neighborhood district program, and she takes care of everything for us. Woohoo! Okay.
All right. I've always wanted to do this. Okay, thank you so much for letting me take a moment of your time. And I just want to introduce myself first as Lisa Boyce. I am one of the members of the school board, and I represent the Carterville Road neighborhood that's part of your neighborhood district, but also I feel like we all represent this entire city of Provo as a board. So I would love to always come and give an update at this meeting if you're interested, and or when specific questions arise or there are things that you would like us to discuss. I would love to hear from you, and we can always get it on the agenda, right, Rachel? Okay, so board member Hales created a slideshow for me. Let's pretend I had these skills. But this just is going to give you a quick update, and then I'm happy to answer questions here, or I will stay through the meeting and I'm happy to talk to you afterwards. All right. Okay, so the first thing is just we are trying really hard to be more transparent and better communicators with the community. So our new superintendent sends out a weekly update that's about usually up to 10 minutes long of everything going on that week in the school district. And she sends that out to all of the parents in the community, and she sends a separate one out to all of the employees. And then she also has a podcast called Sup with the Soup. And this week's podcast is with the author of Technology for Good. Oh man, I should have gotten that right. But every week's podcast deals with different kind of human interest stories. She highlighted our career technical education program and opportunities on that one week, interviewed students. So it's engaging and entertaining. If you want or are interested in listening to the podcast, I highly recommend it. And this weekly video cast is a great way to always see what is happening that week in the school district. And you can access those on the school provo.edu website anytime. Okay, next slide. All right, we just met Tuesday night for the first meeting of a strategic planning process. I personally am thrilled with this. When I decided to run for school board, one of the things I was looking at were the board goals online and talking to board members about this, and realized it was time for the board to be clear and to have a vision and a direction. And to, of course, have that be informed by our superintendent, our teachers, our parents, our business owners in our community, our students themselves, but to be really clear with a set of goals and also priorities. Like that way, when we have to allocate resources or make difficult choices around funding, et cetera, we make sure that what we're doing actually is aligned with a set of goals that we can hold ourselves accountable to. So the process first started by putting together a steering committee, and the steering committee has, I think, 35 members on it. And some of these are employees of Provo School District. Many are parents, business owners in Provo. They represent every neighborhood in Provo. And we have 2 students on that committee. Those are our student school board members, and one of them is from Provo High School, and one of them is Timpview High School boundaries. And this process, they will be meeting, giving feedback and direction to our cabinet. They will put together drafts of things which will come to the board to look at and give them better direction around also. And the idea is to have a completed strategic plan by April of 2024. And what that should give you is a clear set of where we're going and how we will report back to you how we're doing. It needs to have data. It needs to have clear goals that are measurable. And we need to be able to say, I don't know, I'd love it if every 90 days we could say, here's where we are, here's where we're headed to go. Let us show you how far we've come. Or here's what we said we were going to do, here's what we were able to do, and here's why or why not we've met these goals, if that makes sense. So personally, I'm super thrilled about this. I think we need clear vision and direction as a school district of what we're doing, and that needs to be integrated with Provo City's vision and direction so that this community is aligned and we're collaborating. All right, this is a big topic right now that we have to be talking about. Shoreline Middle School is set to open August of 2024. And I am new on the board. I don't know the whole history around all of how we got to where we are now, but I know that moving forward, we have to be thoughtful and intentional about how we work with our Provo City around what happens with that Dixon property. And so we discussed this at our recent board meeting. The superintendent and a lot of people have given input around kind of communicating out, here are a list of needs, here are some suggestions of things that could possibly happen at that site. But what we agreed at our board meeting needed to be the very first step is to actually sit down with direct neighbors of the Dixon property and really listen and hear. I don't know well enough all of the things that really matter there for the people who live right there. And the conversation has to start there. And then it has to connect to our strategic plan and what we're trying to do. But we have to be mindful and timely on this. So if you have input on this, you can scan that QR code to get a sense of some of the ideas that were brought forward. But we really need to listen first and then kind of narrow in on a few possible outcomes and then get feedback again from all of Provo City at that point, because the resources we use to address the Dixon property are the resources of the city as a whole. All right, a couple of things that we are also looking for input on. The first one is around our school calendar. And this is just like the quickest survey you'll ever do. I think there were 4 questions on it, but it just gives us a sense of how people prioritize the way we decide to make our calendar. It asks things like prioritize these things from 1 to, I'll make up a number 7. And we should align with the university's calendar and breaks. We should have our start times aligned with our neighbor schools, et cetera. So the other thing over here is school start times. The research is overwhelming that our high school students should be starting later than they actually do. There's just so much evidence around this, but the practicalities of it are complicated. And so we need to hear from people about this topic in order to do it without disrupting a major disruption to some of our elementary school schedules. We would need to purchase buses and invest in that, unless we were willing to do things like start our elementary school students earlier, or just move everyone out to get out of school later, which we've heard impacts after school sports. There isn't a way to do this without some impact. My belief is that if we were to make a decision and try it out, we might get used to some changes, but we need to hear from everyone. Someone was like, it's so simple to start the younger kids earlier. I'm like, yes, unless they're waiting in the dark for a bus at 6:30 a.m. in winter. So we need to be mindful. It's not an easy thing, even though the data is fairly clear. The implementation of what we do is not clear. So please give us feedback. We're going to send a survey out in January, and I will come here with a way to give that to you at that time. All right, Camp Big Springs. Many of you know, but not all, that Camp Big Springs is an outdoor learning experience that the school district offers 5th grade students. It has been held for more than 50 years up at Camp Big Springs in Provo City. And this last year, it was pretty much demolished by the weather. All of the platforms were destroyed. The warehouse that holds all of the equipment for that camp was destroyed. Luckily, the equipment itself was not damaged, which some of those platform tents are very expensive, and we are thrilled that the equipment itself is intact. But it raises the question around what to do moving forward. For now, we have made a decision that we will rebuild platforms. People who really love Big Springs are like, we will come build those platforms for free. I mean, there's a lot of people who really love this program. Again, as we're looking at our overall plan, we have to ask hard questions. And for me, that will include looking at what is the actual cost of running this program? What needs are being met? Is there another way to meet some of those needs? We only get about 50% of our students participating. So if you have 1,100 5th graders, we get about 600 of them up there. So then, would there be a day camp program that could work for more people, et cetera? So if you have feelings on Camp Big Springs, I personally really want to hear them, because other people seem to know more about this program than I really do. And I do want to hear from constituents on this, but please contact your school board representatives, or just go online and you can email the entire board with 1 click and tell us your questions, your concerns, as we look into the future. And then just for those of you who have students involved that will be headed to Shoreline, we did just approve an expansion of our bus routes so that anyone north north and east of the train tracks will be able to take a bus to get to school safely. We're also looking at areas where lighting will need to be addressed, et cetera, so that students who are walking and trying to get on the other side of the freeway to this school have a safe route to school. So if you have input on that, let us know. All right. These are the school board reps that directly represent all the neighborhoods in your district. Again, you're welcome to also always email the entire board. I did want to mention one other policy that just came through. There's a procedure that we just discussed. I guess it's not a change in policy, but that's around a right of conscience waiver. In accordance with the law here in Utah, any student has the right to fill out a waiver and ask not to participate, any parent in an activity or participate in the same way in an activity if they feel that it violates their religious freedom or their right of conscience. And we honor parents and students' rights to request that waiver, and we will have a way to figure out an alternative way for them to participate, meet state standards, et cetera. But I just want people here to know that that is something that should be communicated clearly to parents so that parents understand how they can support their students and how they can participate in learning opportunities in the way that they feel is correct for them. I think that's it. Any questions? Yeah.
So this get microphone. There's another microphone somewhere else. Okay. I'm Mary Heddingren. I'm in Grandview North, and I'm a former Grandview Grizzly. And I feel like that is another place where there's a facility, and I know it's technically being used, but there's like maybe 8 to 10 cars in the parking lot there in the middle of the day. They're storing bleachers in the parking lot. The playgrounds that when I was a kid, we collected money to develop are just being overgrown. And I know the Parks Department is using those fields a lot for youth soccer, but the volleyball pit is completely overgrown. The bathrooms there are not being particularly well maintained by the city. And there's all these, I don't want to say aggressive, but very stern notes on the building saying no public bathroom use, and so it seems like there's this sort of like hole in the middle of our neighborhood that used to be this big part of the neighborhood when it was an elementary school that people they literally don't know it's there. I tell people, oh, let's meet at the playground and let our kids play there. And they're like, I had no idea this was here. Right. And so it seems like it's not being used robustly. I know that there's technically being used, but is there plans for what that space is going to be? It's a big chunk of real estate.
So just says on. Just hold on to it. Okay. It was me, the user error. Okay. Just recently we did have an all-day meeting where we went over all of the physical facilities needs. We asked every department of this district to come forward and say, A, what are they using, how and where, and B, what do they need going forward? And we are now looking at all of the properties in Provo. Grandview is on everyone's radar as a property that is honestly underutilized and also, I think, not filling kind of the measure of its neighborhood creation there. And so, but all of this has to be done strategically. This is my thought. This was my input on the Dixon property too. I know there's a sense of urgency with some of these decisions, but I want to make sure that we have an overall plan that includes what do we have already here? Are we using what we already have before we spend more money on other things? And then how can we use these properties to serve the community well? We are mindful that that is a space that A, needs some attention and care, and B, also is not utilized fully right now. That's my opinion. I'm speaking for myself. I know this is public record. I do not speak for the board, but I am aware of that. And I have heard the conversations around it to say that we are mindful. We have a lot of properties that we're trying to make sure we're moving together towards, all of them being safe, robust places that support the mission of Provo School District or the city of Provo. I mean, both, right? They need to support both. Yeah. But thank you. I will report back on that.
Is Shoreline the name of the Dixon that used to be Dixon
Yes.
Junior High?
Yeah, it'll
Okay.
be Shoreline Middle School is the new school. And I will say this, it is coming along so beautifully. If only our other construction sites were following in its wake of progress and things happening the way they should over there, it's going to be a beautiful school. And when we recently, the board toured that site, I teach preschool, so I wasn't able to go at the time, but our superintendent got very emotional, just teary looking at that facility. And she has been an administrator at a middle school before, and she just she told me, she said, you've got to walk through, Lisa, because it gives you chills to think of the space there to do all of the great things. So I think it's a beautiful school. And I think it's going to really hopefully meet the needs for a long time to come. I think it's been built with an eye towards the future. Sometimes we build and we don't think farther out, in my mind.
Was there a reason it was changed from Dixon? What was
I think the name Dixon's, I don't actually know that. I wasn't on the board at that time, but I do think Dixon is fairly attached, maybe even literally engraved on the building where it is. So yeah, I don't know all of what behind that, truthfully. Erin. Oh, you go, then you go. Yeah, perfect. Go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to know, what is the attendance like? Is Provo increasing in attendance for students, or is it population getting older and less students?
In enrollment.
Yeah, enrollment.
Yeah, well, after COVID, I think we saw a fairly significant decline in enrollment. Well, I shouldn't say that. What happened was we moved our online school platform out, and that made our numbers go down significantly because people around the state used to do online learning through Provo City School District. So different areas are seeing growth right now, depending on where houses are being built that are more family centric, and some have numbers that are going down. And all of that is part of our conversation around physical facilities, as well as a strategic plan to make sure that we're using our buildings at capacity and that we have students going to schools that have the space for them. So right now we don't really have our secondary schools are really full, but our elementary schools are not.
Thank you.
Right back there, and then we'll come over here. Go ahead, Erin.
This is less of a question than. All right, this is less of a question and more of a comment. On Monday night, a senior at Provo High was killed in Vineyard, and we have made a lot of progress here in Provo to make our streets safer for kids walking to school and for everybody in general. But there's still a lot of crashes that shouldn't be happening, a lot of close calls, and collisions that don't get reported because nobody is physically injured. So a few years ago, advocates really pushed hard to get Provo City and the school district to really make some progress. And in 1 year, more was done than in the previous 10 years. The pace seems to have slowed a little bit, and I hope it does not, because the costs of not doing this in a proactive way means that we'll be reacting to tragedies like happened on 500 North in front of the rec center, and elsewhere. I mean, last year, 2 kids walking to Wasatch Elementary were hit and killed, and it wasn't an accident. That too was preventable and a result of the way that we build our streets. Thank you.
I really appreciate that. And actually, we had a conversation with the city council. One of the things we were talking about is around our safe routes to school, as well as just being proactive, thinking about our commuters, our student commuters, and people in this town. We want people walking and biking. I am a fan of e-bikes. I like seeing people out there, but we have to be mindful around safe practices, both as drivers and as commuters on bikes and on foot. And as a school district, we're looking right now at some of these topics. It has been awareness heightened around Timpview High School, which has had some parking issues. And so there have been some safety concerns around that. And students, we pushed hard to get students to not drive to that school and to come on foot or on all these various wheeled things that have motors that I don't fully understand. But with that has to come now new information around. I was saying the other day, when I was a kid, we had a bike fair. It was at our elementary school. We had to practice how to signal. We got our bikes checked. We made sure they were licensed and registered, and the police officers, it was a big event every year. And we need to be really mindful right now around this as a whole community. And I appreciate parents. I appreciate drivers looking out. I want our students to commute to school on foot or on bike anywhere they can. And especially looking at Shoreline Middle, one of the school board members gave a presentation where she rode her bike on various routes and took pictures to show areas where it would be unsafe for students to be biking to school. And we need to make sure our safe routes to school will look at all of those, and that we have the infrastructure as a city and as a board together. We're working to make sure infrastructure is in place and we educate as much as possible. Thanks.
I wonder about the legal possibility of conversion of the old Grandview Elementary School campus to Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we need to talk about. I know there are a lot of great ideas on the table. Someone reached out to me again this week to talk about the Provo Land Trust, which is a program that's going to help provide housing. I mean, there are a lot of different things going on. As a school district, we want to make sure that we use the properties we own to address the needs that we have, so that we're not out looking to buy new property right now, as opposed to property we already had. So, but that's a great thing to make sure is brought up as we're talking about all the possible ways that we are stewards of this. Thank you. Yeah.
So my name is Eric Chase. For those that don't know, I was the president of the PAC that fought against the bond 6 years ago to move Dixon. So if you want to learn more about the reasons why there's conflict between the neighborhood and the community and the school district, I'm glad to go over all those reasons and talk with you more about that.
I would love it. I would love it. And I know that the whole board right now really wants to make sure that they are transparent and that they've heard you. So I would love to sit down and set up a meeting with anyone who wants to be there. In fact, just the other day, I said to Gina, you know, I know we're supposed to start these meetings in like January, but I feel like I need more of the background. So I appreciate that.
So I'd be happy to work with you on that and talk about the things that happened. We heard some concerns from the people up on Grandview about Grandview Elementary, and I have the same concerns about the other properties you guys have in Central Provo. And my biggest concern is that the school district doesn't have the capacity to make these kinds of decisions about what's good land use for the community. It's something that's out of the scope of what they do. And so they're treating them as cash assets or as just plain acreage, and they don't recognize the value that they can contribute to the community. If you look at Fox Field, just north of the district office, you guys have made no progress on doing anything with that for 10 years. And when you're making these kind of land use decisions, it's a zero-sum game. It could be something great there that contributes tons to our economy and our community, our culture, everything. But instead, it's something you guys are just holding on to, and you don't have any reasons to do that. And I don't think you should do that with Dixon. I don't think you should do it with Grandview. I don't think you should do it with Fox Field. I think there are ways to build great stuff there and have them be important parts of the community, but I don't think the district can do it, honestly. You guys don't have the expertise in-house. It's just not something that you guys can do. I think eventually the answer for all of those properties if you can't commit to building a school on them, is to transfer them to another agency that does, like the Provo City Redevelopment Agency. And I have
Right,
lots more
because if we're
regions.
not, I would love to hear more, because here's the truth, if we're not gonna use them to support education, right, then we need to be, like I said, strategic stewards with the city itself around how those pieces of land that in many times are central in our city neighborhoods to be productively contributing to the well-being of our community. So I would love
Just
it.
one more
yeah.
quick thing I want to add, because it's especially concerning when your business administrator said in your board meeting this week that you're going to consider all possibilities for the Dixon property, but you absolutely won't build apartments there. That's something he said in the work meeting.
Yeah.
And that just shows the district doesn't have the long range vision or the capacity to work through these problems.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that input. And I would love, like I said, to sit down and hear from you and get some, I mean, I want us to all be leading into these things with like proactive solutions. So I would love to hear from you around how you think that would best be handled. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really interesting. Thank you so much. And thanks for all of your questions and input. There's lots that we can work on in our community to make it even better. And we're very grateful to the school board for all they're doing to support our students and our teachers, our schools, and to make them the best they can be. I think Provo schools should be the best in the state. We have the resources here in our community. We will next hear from, speaking of schools in our community, are we ready to hear from BYU? No, no, we're going to jump ahead because our little present, we want to get this out of the way and then we'll do ours. I mean, not out of the way. It's going to be great with the BYU YServe. Oh, okay, then we'll go ahead. We'll go ahead and do ours. Okay. Let me do the first couple slides and then you. Okay, are you putting up our slides? Okay, this is the point in our meeting where we talk about what we're working on to represent all of you in our district. This is where we tell you when we hear about concerns in our district, we on our board, we go to work working with Rachel to try to meet those needs. So here's our projects that we've been working on this year. First of all, we did the grand reopening on October 16th. The mayor came. We have a wonderful park at Rotary Park. We had the fire truck and ambulance and 350 people. We were planning on, 50 to 100. We had to run by more hot dogs. And it was really fun and a great neighborhood activity. And love to do that in different parts of our district every year. And so next is we are working on for the Pleasant View neighborhood, the sound and light pollution, which comes from our wonderful football stadium in that area. And Lynn Sorenson from the Pleasant View neighborhood will be telling us about what's going on there.
Is this working? No. Is that working? Yes, there we are. Okay. Bugle, not corn dog. Hey, so let me say that those of us who've been working on it, which is our chair, Beth Hedengren, and Mel Smith and myself, are all BYU retirees. We run Blue Bloods, Go Cougs, the whole thing. So we want to be sure that people don't think, hey, we're ready to, chop down this school. No, we're not. We're definitely not. But how do I change the next one? Will you change for us? Okay, so let's tell you what we've been finding out, what we've been doing and so forth. Looking at the code about sound. For instance, the sound levels in the daytime, you can see that on the left there. Oh, I get to use my handy dandy little pointer. Okay, so it's not pointing. Well, maybe not. Okay, you can see what the sound levels there are to be within code for daytime. And these are decibels and at nighttime and so forth. And then the policy and the ordinance reads that if there's an exemption, it must be applied for in writing and approved by the mayor, him or herself. If there's going to be something that they anticipate is noisy. Okay.
So when you say 85, what does that mean?
It's really loud.
How loud is it?
It's really loud. Yes, 85. What it is any place that's nearby that isn't the place that it's emanating from. So the houses, for instance, on Stadium Avenue. And so they're not measuring it at the stadium or at the track. They're measuring it in the neighborhood. So apartments nearby, homes nearby, yards nearby, etc. So we are soliciting more data. We have some really good data, and I want to show you two different ways of collecting data. So if we go to the next slide, and oh, yay. Okay, you probably can't read all of those, but what we've got is this person who kept these this data. They listed the date of when something happened, what time it happened, and then the location. Now notice that it's not just the stadium, it's the track, and it's the Marriott Center, and it's, well, you know, track, Marriott Center, and that's what this person measured. And you say, well, how do you measure that? I actually looked on Amazon. You can buy a decibel meter for easily under $100. And the really great thing about it is if you get one of them that will hold the highest decibel that was measured on the screen. So you don't have to be standing there, you know, holding this for the entire, you know, freshman welcome dance or whatever it's going on. You just put it in your backyard or wherever. And, you know, 2 hours later, you look at it and it says, you know, 89 or whatever. So what has happened a lot of times when neighbors have complained to the police department, they have responded and they've come to the location, they've put their thing up and they said, huh, well, this is like 24, no big deal. See you later. You know, they're there for 5 minutes. So of course, sound problems are not consistently going on for 1 solid hour or 6 hours or whatever. But anyway, that's one way to collect data. Then if we go to the next slide, you'll see another way to collect data. So these are 3 different comments. So one of the things that's interesting is that a lot of noise that has come from the stadium, we're not talking about football games, we're not even looking at football games at this point, are private events that are being held in the stadium. And there's all kinds of these going on with, what's that really, Follow the Titans? What's that Titan movie? What is it called? Remember the Titans. So Remember the Titans is blasting with the audio and on that gigantic screen, and 30 people are sitting in the stadium watching the movie. And, you know, the noise is, you know, excruciating. This is actually the highest one. The bottom notation here was the September 11th stair climb event. So there was someone who sang the national anthem at 91.6. I happened to see my audiologist this week and he said, oh, no, you're kidding. That couldn't be right. And I said, oh, yeah. And he said, well, that is completely 100% damaging to hearing. Now, one thing that Professor Hedengren pointed out is if these measurements are in the neighborhood backyards, what in the world is going on in the stadium or in the track or in the Marriott Center plaza area for the people who are attending. You know, that's really dangerous, and permanent damage can be caused by that. So we want to collect some more data. Next slide, please. Here's what we've been doing. We looked at the code. We've collected some data, and we're here asking any Pleasant View folks if they would like to participate in this. What I get is a lot of phone calls or emails, and all that noise from BYU is just so loud. I can't even stand it. I have to wear headphones. It's a kablam. I have to leave my house, you know. But I want to say, well, when was that? And what was the event? And so forth. So we want to collect data. And I really feel like BYU, of course, has very good intentions, but they really have, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. So the track and field athletic administrators have no idea what they're doing for freshman welcome week or, you know, whatever. So there's no seemingly central place that this is being monitored at BYU, and certainly not in the city. And we found out that for the exemptions, there's been a grand total of 6 exemptions ever applied for, and all 6 were this year for the 6 football games. So hooray, hooray. I asked the city administrator, well, why do you think this just all of a sudden happened? And it said, because you guys are asking about this. And he said, oh, okay, good. So glad BYU's applied for that. That's wonderful. And if they get the exemption, but we need to know, help BYU know what's going on, because the track and field people only know about their things. The, what is it called when they come back to school? Well, the orientation, and then they have the little groups. I forget what they're called. You know, those people, I mean, I was an event planner at BYU. I know when you're planning an event, you are so focused on your event, you know, you're not any idea of what else might be going on that could be competing in the sound area. So we met with the mayor's office. Our representative from BYU said to meet with them. We did. He was responsive. He said that he would talk to BYU, and I don't know exactly what part of BYU he would be talking to. We're waiting to hear back. We will follow up, but anyone who is in that neighborhood, if you have any way to collect data, if you'd go back, please, one, Rachel, you'll notice that some of these, you know, did not have a measurement. You know, if you don't really feel like, I don't want to go buy this decibel thing, you know, maybe several people in a neighborhood could go in on one. Yes. If you have Apple Watch on Apple, there's a desktop on your Apple Watch for your alarm and on your phone, but you can also download apps just on your phone. There's a lot of free apps.
There are a lot of free apps that are decibel meters that you can download for your phone. And so you don't need to buy anything special. You can just download that free app and it will say what's around your phone. Also, if you have Apple, your iPhone and your Apple Watch will also, there's a little button you can push that will say what's the decibel counting around where you are. It's not like 100% perfect, but it would be totally fine for something like this. And a lot of people can use that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And it's of course, it's not only in Pleasant View where there's noise pollution. I understand there's a lot of noise going on with the Rancho Market now having big Friday night parties and so forth. So this isn't just in Pleasant View. It's Pleasant View. We're looking at what's going on with our neighbors at BYU and hoping that we'll have a little bit of push and give, pull and tell, whatever. Oh,
I just had a question. Maybe you're going
put
to
that up like a bugle.
Maybe you're going to approach this or broach the subject, but did you ask them about the lights and leaving screens on all night long? Okay.
Absolutely. There are issues with the lights. There's light pollution problems. And so far we haven't had anyone send anything that would give us data on that, but that is definitely an issue.
And it's only since that new screen has it looked like that. Okay, I said my house, ever since that new screen was put in, looks like an alien is landing in the living room and in my kids' bedrooms and all that. So, I mean, how would one collect data on that? Would you just record how long? Because sometimes it's left on the entire night.
Yeah, go back to
Okay.
chart, Rachel.
Thank you.
So with this kind of recording here, I mean, I don't know if this is every single night, but whatever, if you can put the date of what it was and what time it was. I mean, a lot of this in the ordinance has a lot to do with what time of day this is happening. So if you're having this happen, either sound or light pollution, please let's get even more data together so that we can present this to BYU. And I know BYU wants to be a good neighbor to its neighbors. So let's help, people know what's going on and get some help from the city with enforcing ordinance and so forth. So any comments or questions?
Oh, there's one over here.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, besides the city ordinance, just for people's information around the health of your hearing, if you're worried about it, you would need 8 hours of consistent exposure at 85 decibels. As a speech language pathologist, this is something we talk to people about as their hearing health. For it to actually damage your hearing, that doesn't mean it isn't loud though, and shouldn't be in code. But just if you're worried, like, oh my gosh, if I'm exposed to this, am I damaging my hearing? It would require 8 hours of consistent exposure at 85 decibels, just so that anyone who's really alarmed that they might have damage right now, that's something to be watching for too, is the duration of this noise, and then make sure it is within code. But just for anyone who's concerned about that, so that you understand, like, it takes time at that decibel, but as you know, as it goes up, that time window shortens, right? And so, yeah.
Okay, over here and then back over here again.
I think one other to engage in these discussions as an attorney, because as I listen to that sound on Grandview Hill and how strong it is, they are subject to lawsuits from people claiming hearing loss from having attended a season's football games.
Thank you.
And I was going to say one more thing. Hopefully I'm pointing it right, but I don't mean to sound like a prude, but also one other thing I don't appreciate is that they play all sorts of music. I don't like my 3-year-old asking me, what does this F word mean? It's BYU, but some of the songs they play are not for 3-year-olds.
Okay, thank you so much. We will keep working on this, and we do need more feedback from residents, from BYU, from the city, and we'll be moving ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh. Thank you, Lynn. Well done. And Lynn has just been great working on this, and it is a very important issue. We love BYU. We love BYU football. But as she said, I don't think they're aware of how many events and the impact there are and the impact on the neighborhood. The light in your house, that's really hard. Okay, let's move on to our next item. This came to my attention just a week ago. There's a crosswalk in the Grandview area. This is where Grandview School used to be. And this is our neighborhood over here. This is Jordan Avenue, 1460. And this crosswalk has been there since there was a school. And in fact, it still has the school crossing signs up on it. However, it's still really used a lot because there's the playground over there. There's the grassy area. People walk their dogs. There's a lot of traffic going across there.
And on the other side is Provo's best park, Lions Park.
Oh, that's right. That's yours. Yes. If you go down here, you can go down the hill into Lions Park, which is a great park, thanks to Aaron who got it fixed. Anyway, so next slide. This is what came into my email this last week from a mother. She uses the crosswalk often. She lives on Jordan Avenue. Her son, they were crossing the street. Her son was a little bit ahead of her, just a little boy. And the cars were stopped where she could see them coming eastbound. And then all at once, there's a hill go to the next slide. Yeah, go to the next slide. This is coming up the hill. You cannot see the crosswalk as you're coming up the hill or anybody in it. So go back to the scary story. Then a westbound car flew out in front of him and he had to stop and wait again. And then the next westbound car stopped. And so he's continuing ahead. And then a speeding SUV comes up behind the stopped car and tries to pass on the right. Passes on the right and nearly hits her son and screeched to a halt. So let's go on. So I called our wonderful traffic people who are really dedicated to keeping our streets safe. When I was talking to him, he just got a little tears in his voice because a BYU student was injured in a crosswalk just this last week, 2 weeks ago. And so he went right over there and he talked with this woman and he walked through it. Go back to the pictures here. And he said, yes, there's no visibility coming up the hill. And so he said, well, maybe we can move the crosswalk further to the west, but there's no connecting road at the next block. And you can't have a crosswalk going into a driveway. So he's kind of stuck. Now, do you have those pictures? Just today, this sweet man, we just really have to appreciate our city workers. He just today sent these pictures to Rachel. He has striped it here and put in this right turn only so that SUV who passed on the right, he would be in this lane. And in that lane, he could only turn right. So bless him. That was, he said, well, right now I can do that. Rachel, what else was there that he said?
Yeah, and also to slow down traffic, he's put up these, what are they called, pylons or something?
And if somebody was going to be illegal and go straight in that right turn lane, they can't. There's these pylons here. So yay,
So these are just kind of temporary while he tries to figure out what's the best thing to do. He's trying to prevent someone passing on the right, but it doesn't fix you can't see people as you're going up that hill. So this is just what he did today, trying to slow it down with the pylons, trying to prevent passing on the right, but he's still researching what is the best thing to do.
Yeah. Aaron, do you want to give the microphone to Aaron?
I don't know are these comments going to get relayed to Vern? Okay. So first off, Vern is great.
Vern is great.
He's really
We all
trying
agree.
hard to make our public streets safer. If you're going really fast, then it's a problem. But if you're going the proper speed, not having that visibility till you get near the top of the hill is far less of a problem. So his efforts to calm traffic, which probably need to start not just near the top of the hill, but lower down, I think would be advisable. Also, a lot of cities, but unfortunately not yet Provo, are using plastic bollards in a variety of situations to produce traffic calming. And I mean, you could use those pylons, but nothing against our high school kids, Lisa, but eventually they'll probably cart them away. But pylons that, can be attached to the roadway are something that I hope Provo City will start adopting. They're cheap and they're, they won't stop a car from running into people, but they'll help drivers focus on what they ought to be doing.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
So he also said that he was notifying the police department that he had done this, and he would have police watching and ticketing people who are, trying to turn right anyway or speeding or whatever. So that's a plus.
Hurrah. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yes, Eric.
Okay. I don't know I just want to say, I think this is a big improvement. I don't know if anybody remembers in the Grandview North neighborhood, it was probably 2 years ago, they had a neighborhood meeting because they were dealing with, speeding problems on 1700 North. And the feeling I got from that meeting was that they were willing to talk about solutions and stuff as long as it didn't slow down the traffic. And I think hopefully we can try and change, maybe if that switch is already flipped, that we're willing in the city to slow down traffic a little bit if it makes our neighborhood safer. So I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, that's great. And going back to the school board discussion, if we get that park more of a community center that we can actually use, it's all the more important to have that crosswalk there. So thank you. So we've discussed it with city engineer and he's working on making it better. In the meantime, I want to tell everybody here to drive slowly and carefully on 1460 North, especially as you're coming up that hill. And also as you walk or bike around this crosswalk, be aware that it's a dangerous place. All right, what's next? No, now, are we ready for BYU? Do you want to go ahead? Because we could go to the next meeting if you want.
I can present everything. I don't know if he's
But after he does his presentation, we'll have public comment. And I just want to say, if you let us know your concerns, I hope you understand, we are going to do something about it. You can see that's what we do. So, and your name is?
I'm Joseph Fuge.
Let's get you and hold it, a bugle.
Okay, bugle. Okay, can you hear me? Is this good? Perfect. I'm Joseph Fuge. I am the executive director of community cleanup at BYU, which is BYU's one of BYU's service programs. And here, perfect just in time, we have Dan. He can introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Sumsion. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Awesome. Sorry. Yes, I'm Dan Sumsion. And so we're part of YServe. Sorry, even closer. This is good. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Like this. Okay. I mean, very well. Awesome. So we're with YServe. We're with BYU for the Center of Service and Learning. And sorry, how do we get the slides to advance?
We'll just
Perfect. Thank you, Rachel. And so with BYU, we have a couple of education. With BYU education, we have aims and all that. And so this is our mission at BYU, and it's to assist individuals in their quest for perfection and eternal life. And the aims of BYU are spiritually strengthening and intellectually enlarging and character building. And this last one right here is what we're focused on at YServe, which is leading to lifelong learning and service. And so specifically at the Center for Service and Learning, YServe, is we have this vision and our mission. And so specifically, and Joseph, would you mind reading these? Would that be okay? The vision and mission?
Yeah. So again, as he said, these are YServe's vision and mission. The vision is that we will instill in the heart and mind of every student a desire to give lifelong service. And our mission is to provide every student with a meaningful service opportunity, following our guiding principles of safety, respect, meaning, revelation, selflessness, and reflection.
Thank you so much, Joseph. And so at YServe, this is what we're really trying to do, is to fulfill this mission and to really help other people do it. And so these are some of the statistics, kind of generally speaking, of what YServe, kind of the capabilities and all we've been able to do. And so at YServe, it is the largest student-run organization in the world, which is an amazing opportunity we have to give this service to the world. We have over 70 different programs just here in the Utah Valley area. We have 350 just volunteer leaders, not to mention all the different volunteers. We have over 20,000 volunteers that volunteer as BYU students every year, not to mention all the other people that come and help out at the events. And then we log over 30,000 hours every year. And so we also have many community outreach programs, and Joseph, as he talked about just a little bit, is in charge of one of these programs. This last one right here, Community Cleanup. But specifically with the community, these are the ones we have. And so Community Action Food Bank, I'm sure many of you have heard of that food bank that's over here by the front runner down here. We have Habitat for Humanity that helps out with the restore and building homes in the Utah Valley area. We have Self-Help Homes that also helps with building homes. Community service providers, Freshman Service Corps, Refugee. We have tons of different community projects that are going on. And so we wanted to dive in a little bit deeper to what community cleanup is all about.
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you. I just love to add on to what Dan already shared with our vision and mission. I think it's so beautiful that we are helping BYU students grow that love for lifelong service. And one of the most impactful ways I think we can do that together is when Provo residents can come to the activities that we have and help us out. Especially, I remember 2 months ago, going to Lions Park and helping, cut the hillside down. Unfortunately, the semester hadn't started, so we didn't really get any volunteers there besides myself. So I went alone. I helped work alongside a lot of you to do that. And I was so impacted by that experience, getting there with over 100 Provo residents to cut down that hillside and make it less susceptible to fire damage. So I think that's one way that you can support us, is simply showing up to these community service events that you might hear about through your neighborhood district or through the city council. Rachel, if you could go to the next slide. This is an activity we had 2 weeks ago. We were weeding the road alongside the new Provo High School. And we had 30 volunteers from BYU show up and maybe 4 to 5 Provo residents, which was beautiful. And we weeded almost the entire strip alongside that road in Provo High School. It was so good of an experience. I show you this to show that we're here to help you out, to make the community a beautiful place, especially Community Cleanup, which is the program that I direct. So when you see somewhere in Provo, a park, a roadside, a trail, whatever it may be, that really is kind of dirty, it's really full of weeds or trash or something like that, we would love for you to reach out to us and let us know that we can help you out with that. And so for that reason, I put my phone number up there and the Community Cleanup BYU email so that you can reach out to us. Feel free to reach out to your neighborhood district leaders as well, and they should be able to get in contact with us to organize that if you'd prefer that. Is there any questions about Community Cleanup or about YServe?
Okay, I just want to say how great they are. So Joseph contacted me saying, hey, we have a Saturday that we want to do a cleanup activity. So I was running around to different, departments and board members. No one could give me anything. A random citizen just happened to email me about this area that no one wanted to take care of because it's technically not in Provo. This is technically Utah, even though it's across the street from Provo High, it's Utah County. And so no one was taking responsibility for it. It was terrible. It looked so bad. And they just came in like I couldn't even get a hold of the board members for that area. BYU came in force, cleaned it up. It looks amazing. I mean, they're an amazing group. Like just within a few days notice, they were there. And that resident was like, what? I just sent a random email to the city council and 30 people showed up and cleaned it up. It was just, they're just such a great group. So I'm just saying, take advantage of that.
Can you tell us a little more about what you do and don't do? Like what's under the purview of what would fulfill this community cleanup? Like do you do graffiti? Is it just weeding?
What's
Yeah. Yeah, so we were just asked to explain exactly what it is that we do and don't do as BYU community cleanup. That is a great question. So definitely we specialize in weeding and cleaning up parks and trails, trimming, that sort of thing, being kind of out in nature. But we are totally willing, as long as supplies are provided, to paint over graffiti or again, pick up trash or whatever needs manual labor to just show up. We will do it. Again, we don't have the budget to go and buy the paint and fill your or to paint over that graffiti, for example. But we do have the manual labor, we have the hands, and we do have some tools of our own. We have a lot of shovels and rakes and gloves. So a lot of those tools we probably have, but not the actual supplies or materials. So does that answer your question? Perfect.
I love this. What a wonderful thing. And it's a wonderful thing for our community that they will help us. I love that story. But I love that you said, you know, this is good for the students. And it is to see that they can reach out and make a difference. And as they leave BYU and go to other communities, they'll say, hey, what can I do to help my community? And join maybe a neighborhood district to do that. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. Okay, now's your time to tell us your concerns, and we'll take note of all of those concerns. And if there's something we can do something about, we will do it. Yes, sir. Oh, microphone. Here you go.
My name is Sean Bergeson. I own a house on Carterville, about 1000 West, and been about 2 years. And I just was curious. I've had some neighbors say we've all kind of gotten resigned that Friday, Saturday night will be a racetrack from pretty much Rancho Market up the hill, and it comes right into our neighborhood. I was just curious if the district, and thank you for looking out for us and taking care of it. Has there been any communication with the police department or anyone to help? Because it's getting to the point where it's like my one friend, she has 2 little kids. They just accept the fact that until 12:30 at night, it's just like,
This is the Rancho Market Fiesta.
it's not the Rancho Market. I'm not blaming them. I'm saying from the bottom of the hill, like all the way up State Street towards where the bowling alley is, towards Orem. That is turned into quite the racetrack. And I was just curious if anyone else has brought it up. A lot of our neighbors, we just resigned to the fact that
And where
you'll be awake.
Where are you?
I live on 2000 North, like it's basically 2000 North, 1000 West. So just on that hill. So Carterville.
Carterville. Aaron. Here you go.
I got it. So when you say racetrack, is it motorcycles, cars like revving their engines? I mean, are they?
I've been there 2 years, so my sample size is pretty good.
Right.
I would say, and I'm not like, I don't know how fast they're going. It's extremely loud, and you can just hear cars for 2 or 3 hours going up and down that hill. And I've gone by the Maverick, and I've seen it. It's a very big, like, I get it. There's a bunch of kids and they want to do their cars and do their things, but that's their spot. And they go up and down the hill Fridays and Saturday nights. I was talking to my friend Amanda. She's got a couple of kids. The whole neighborhood, and it comes and on that hill, if you can visualize it.
Yep.
It just all of the sound comes into our neighborhood. I'm like, awesome Saturday night. So I'd maybe use whatever adjective.
So it's the noise and the speed that's the concern.
I mean, not the speed as much.
The noise.
You never know. Sometimes noise doesn't equate to speed.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay. We're
Has anyone told the police? You haven't.
hearing it in the Rivergrove neighborhood as well.
Are you?
And now that we close our windows at night because it's cool, I'm hearing it less, but now I know what was going on. Yeah.
Well,
But it's not a problem for us, but I can imagine if you're over in the Carterville neighborhood, it would be,
Visualize the way State Street goes.
yeah.
It's literally right down, and so it just, all of us right on Carterville Road, I mean, you did that every Friday, Saturday night, we're like, all right, but it's time.
but they're just using State Street, right? They're not using Carterville Road.
Doesn't seem like it's
Okay.
not on State Street, but- and I was just more curious if it had been brought up to the
Right.
Provo Police Department. Maybe I should
Yeah, you
call
should.
the non-emergency line and say, hey, by the way, this is quite awesome.
Well, it's
When we
dangerous.
talked with this,
2 years, like, it was one night I did, okay, it's every Saturday night. Pretty much, you know, you can hang out, it's awesome.
when we talked with the city official, he said, we hardly ever get any complaints about the noise near BYU. I said, what? And so then the city assumes, the police assume there's no problem. So I would pass on from him, you need to call the police and ask them repeatedly, and maybe not just you, but your Amanda and your other neighbors and whatever, because they don't really know that there's a problem until you call it to their attention. I mean, we'll do something too, but it's the neighborhood people that have more weight than us who don't live in your neighborhood.
I wanna make it's not coming to complain of, actually.
No, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
You said bring it up, I'll bring it up. That's
Please
my
do.
favorite.
Well,
2 years, we're like, well,
yeah.
maybe that's the reality of our life. Maybe not.
Maybe not. And it sounds really dangerous too, for the people who are doing it. One more on this is what I've heard in my neighborhood is people complaining about loud music coming up from that area. And so, and someone said, oh, they have a big party over in the Rancho Market parking lot.
I drive by there every time, I've never seen.
You've never seen that?
I
I don't know. So, okay. So that's at first what I thought you were talking about. Okay, go ahead here. Turn it on.
I just wanted to ask, what would calling the Provo police do with loud road noise? Is it Provo police that need to know? Is it 311? The sound issue sounds serious, but what are the police gonna do about loud traffic? Like,
Rachel,
is that a good use of police resources, or what would be a better avenue to report that to?
Okay, first of all, we need to make sure we use the mic. The people on Zoom can't hear no matter how loud you speak. If you don't use the mic, they can't hear anything. So that was the Carterville neighborhood along State Street that they're speeding. I live on State Street right there. I know what you're talking about. So, as far as the police, I think probably it's always hard for them because unless they can race over there and catch them, there's not really much they can do unless you keep a record like they're doing with the sound so they can see a pattern and then set up patrols there. That's about the only thing I can think of. I don't know if they'd be able to get there in time to actually catch the people doing it. But if they're meeting in a certain spot, kind of keep a record of that. So then they know where to find people and all that. And you're concerned about the, like the party going on over by Rancho Market. It's actually the event center next to Rancho Market. And they almost got their dance license revoked. And they're supposed to be solving that problem. So let people know if that's still going on. They were given 6 months to kind of clean up their act. And so if that is still going on, make sure to alert people.
Well, and now people's windows are closed and
Yeah, so maybe they're not noticing.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, what other concerns do you have? Yes, over here.
I was just curious how you want us to report the metrics on the light and sound from the stadium.
Can you go back to that, Rachel, where I have my email on that?
Okay, so you just want us to email you directly?
And have the date and the event and the light and the noise. And if you have decibels, that's, you know, as concrete as possible.
Okay.
And if it's light, how long the light was and how, just even if you describe, like that woman did, that it feels like an alien landing.
One more.
Yeah, there it is. There's your,
Yeah, there's my email address.
Okay, thank you.
so that's
It's the
Lynn's
Zoom
email address, and just send her the information.
Will you read it out? for
Yes,
Zoom?
D Lynn Son.
Oh, that's not it, sorry.
Oh, that's the wrong address.
It's D Lynn Sor, so that's DLYNNSOR at Gmail.
Oopsie.
And then, can you go one more, please, Rachel? Okay, so this is in the chart form. This is an example of a chart form. And then one more is just the example of, telling about it. But notice that, this one, not all of them, but the one in the bottom lists the date, the time, what it was. They were actually able to measure it. And if you don't have something to measure it, you can just say, it was loud enough that we had to close our windows and our baby was crying, or, whatever. D Lynn Sor, DLYNNSOR at Gmail.
And if you're on the mailing list, if you signed up here with your email, is that how they get on the mailing list, Rachel? Yeah. Then Rachel sends out these great summaries of the meeting to you, and she will have the correct email address on that, as well as the slideshows that we had tonight, right? So that'll be great. Any other concerns? Anybody else have a concern? This is great to hear from you. I want to once again thank Lisa. That's right, Lisa, right? Lisa for coming, and the BYU people have gone now, but what a informative meeting this is. Please go back and tell your neighbors how helpful and informative this meeting is, and tell them to come with you next time. Our next meeting will be December 7th. Come back, and we'll work together to make our neighborhoods better and better. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Did I understand you said the mayor can make an exception on the sound?
Mhm.
Okay, well, I would suggest that